I still remember the exact words my eldest son said that day, words that sliced through my heart like a knife. "Dad, your blessing doesn't pay bills. Keep your sentiments to yourself." He said it right there, in front of everyone, his wife, my daughter, even the lawyer who'd come to discuss my will. The room went silent, except for the sound of my wife quietly sobbing beside me. For years, I believed respect was worth more than money. I thought my children understood that, but standing in my own living room, I realized how wrong I was. It started with a simple family meeting. I'd called them all together to discuss how I wanted to divide my estate, our house, the family business, and a few properties I'd bought after retirement. Nothing fancy, but enough to keep everyone comfortable. But instead of gratitude, I was met with greed. "Dad, let's be practical." My son's wife said coldly, "You're too old to handle these things. Just transfer everything to us. We'll take care of you." Her voice dripped with fake sweetness, but her eyes told the truth. They weren't asking, they were demanding. My daughter, always the quieter one, tried to speak up, but my son silenced her. "You've always been the favorite, so don't act innocent now," he snapped. The argument escalated until I saw something I could never unsee: my own son pushing the will papers toward me and saying, "Just sign it, Dad. Your blessing doesn't matter, the money does." That was the moment something inside me broke. I signed nothing that day, but I signed something else later, something they would never expect. Because if my blessing truly didn't matter, then I'd make sure the ones who did value it were the ones who received it, along with $5 million each. After retiring from my business at 68, I finally thought I'd earned peace. For 40 years, I'd run a modest construction company, not the biggest in the city, but built on honesty, hard work, and trust. I never cheated a client, never cut corners, and always paid my workers on time. My motto was simple: do good, and good will follow. My wife, Sarah, was my partner in everything from raising our children to managing our humble home. We'd married young, and together we'd built a life full of small joys. Every Sunday, our house would fill with laughter: my son, Imran, his wife, Nadia, and their 2 kids running around the garden. My daughter, Hina, would arrive with homemade desserts, always bringing that calm smile that reminded me so much of her mother. Those were the moments that made all the struggles worth it. Imran, my eldest, was once my pride. Sharp-minded, ambitious, always talking about expanding the business. I'd hoped he'd carry on my legacy with integrity, but as the years went by, I noticed something change. The warmth in his eyes began to fade, replaced by calculation. Nadia, his wife, came from a wealthy family. When they first married, she seemed polite enough, but soon she began dropping small comments, subtle but sharp. "Uncle, this house could use a renovation. Don't you think it looks outdated? Or aren't you tired of managing all this at your age?" I brushed it off, telling myself I was overthinking. But Sarah, she noticed. She doesn't see this home as ours, only as something she'll inherit. My wife said one night as we sat in the living room. I laughed softly, trying to calm her fears. "She's just young, Sarah. They'll learn respect in time." But deep down, something inside me shifted. Still, I held on to hope that my children would value family over fortune, love over luxury. Because back then, I still believed we were one happy family. I didn't confront them that night. Instead, I sat quietly in the dark, pretending not to have heard anything. I told myself it was just frustration, careless talk. But once a seed of doubt is planted, it grows fast. From that day, I started noticing things: small, subtle changes that only a father's heart could sense. Imran stopped visiting unless he needed something. Nadia began treating our house like it was already hers. She'd rearrange furniture, give orders to our old housekeeper, even talk about renovating after we're gone. Hina, my daughter, tried to keep peace. She dropped by after work and cooked dinner for us, gently steering conversations away from arguments. She once told me quietly, "Abu, I think Bai and Bab, Hayar, planning something. They've been meeting with people from your business lately." Her words made my stomach tighten. "Planning what?" I asked. She hesitated to take over. "Without asking you. That night, I couldn't sleep. My wife saw me pacing in the living room. "There are children, Sarah," I said. "Why would they betray us?" She looked at me sadly. Because you made life too easy for them. Her words hurt because they were true. I'd always given him, ran the best, education, opportunities, the business itself. Maybe I'd made him think everything was his by right, not by respect. The next morning, I decided to talk to him calmly, as a father, not a boss. Imran, I've noticed you're taking more decisions without consulting me, I said. He smiled, but there was arrogance behind it. Dad, times have changed. You're old-fashioned. Let me handle things now. I'm not against progress, I replied, but I built this company with my hands. Don't treat it like a game. He shrugged. It's not a game, it's business, and emotions don't belong in business. That was the first time my own son spoke to me like a stranger. By the end of that week, I realized I couldn't ignore the situation any longer. So I decided to call a family meeting not to accuse anyone, but to clear the air. I wanted transparency, peace, understanding. I sent messages to both children, asking them to come home for dinner on Sunday. Hina replied immediately, as always, "Of course, Abu. I'll bring dessert." Imran's reply came hours later. "Sure, but if this is about the company again, let's keep it short." Sarah spent the whole day preparing his favorite dishes, biryani, kebabs, and Kheer, hoping food would soften his mood. When they arrived, the tension in the room was thick. Nadia walked in first, carrying herself like she owned the place. Imran followed, phone in hand, barely glancing up. We ate mostly in silence. After dinner, I cleared my throat and said, "I wanted to talk about how we'll handle things in the future, the business, the property, the inheritance. I think it's time to plan it properly." Nadia's eyes lit up immediately. "That's a good idea, Abu. We can help with the paperwork. You don't need to stress yourself." Imran nodded in agreement too quickly. "Yeah, Dad, just sign things over now, so there's no confusion later." Sarah's hand tightened on mine under the table. I could feel her trembling. "I haven't decided anything yet," I said. "This is about family discussion, not signing." But their faces fell as if they'd just lost something. Hina spoke softly. "Maybe we can talk about it together, without pressure." But Imran snapped. "You wouldn't understand, Hina. You're not part of the business." That was the moment I realized it wasn't about love anymore, it was about control. After everyone left, I sat alone in my study, staring at old family photos on the wall, birthdays, picnics, weddings, moments that once meant something. I was lost in thought when I suddenly heard voices outside my door. It was Imran and Nadia whispering, and then I heard Nadia's cold, calculating words. "Tomorrow, he'll sign the property papers, one way or another." The next morning felt heavy like the calm before a thunderstorm. I woke up before sunrise, sat quietly on the veranda, and listened to the birds. My tea went cold in my hands as my mind replayed what I'd overheard the night before. By noon, Imran called, "Dad, let's meet at home around 4. I'll bring some papers. It's just a formality." His tone was sharp, businesslike, no warmth, no respect. Sarah overheard the call and placed a trembling hand on my shoulder. "Promise me you won't let them bully you," she said. "I'll try." I whispered, "But he's my son, Sarah. I don't want a war." At 4, they arrived. Imran in a crisp suit, Nadia carrying a leather folder. Hina came too, sensing something was wrong. The air turned tense as soon as they walked in. No greetings, no smiles, just silence and the sound of papers being placed on the table. "Dad," Imran began, sliding the documents toward me. "This is the transfer deed. If you sign, it'll make everything easier. No more confusion about inheritance." I looked at him, hoping it was some kind of misunderstanding. "You mean, you want me to transfer everything to you?" He didn't blink. "Yes, it's practical. I'll manage the business, the house, and the assets. You can just relax." Sarah gasped softly. "Imran, have you lost your mind? This isn't how you talk to your father." But he ignored her. "Dad, you always said you trust me, so prove it, sign it." Hina tried to intervene. Stop it, this isn't right." Imran turned to her with venom in his eyes. "Stay out of this, Hina. You've done nothing for the family business. You don't deserve anything." Something inside me cracked. My son, my own flesh and blood, was talking like a stranger, a vulture circling its prey. I pushed the papers back across the table. I'm not signing anything. His expression hardened. Then don't blame me for what happens next. That night, I couldn't sleep. My wife cried silently beside me, whispering prayers under her breath. I kept staring at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong as a father. The next morning, our family lawyer, Mr. Rashid, called. "Sir, Imran and his wife came to my office today," he said hesitantly. "They wanted me to prepare a legal transfer document in your name, but, without your consent, I froze." "What? Yes," he said gravely. "They claimed you were mentally unfit to handle your affairs. They even brought fake medical papers. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My knees went weak. I sat down slowly, trying to process the betrayal. My own son, claiming his father was seen. I'll just to steal what he hadn't earned. Sarah was furious when I told her. How dare they? She cried. We sacrificed everything for them. But I held her hand. No, we can't act in anger. Let's stay calm. Let them believe they've won. Sometimes silence is the best weapon." Later that evening, Imran came again, this time with his lawyer. He walked straight in, confidence radiating from him. "Dad," he said mockingly, "I'm only doing what's best for everyone. You can't handle these things anymore." Sarah stood up. "Enough, Imran. You're talking to your father, not some stranger." He turned to her, his voice dripping with disdain. Then maybe he should act like one. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I rose from my chair, my hands trembling not with weakness, but with rage. "You think money gives you power, Imran? You think I owe you my life's work?" He smirked. "No, Dad, I think you owe it to the family, to me." The room fell silent. Then he said the words I'll never forget, the words that ended the father. "Son bond forever. Your blessing doesn't matter, Dad. It doesn't pay bills. Sign the papers." Sarah's cry filled the room. Hina covered her face, tears streaming down. I said nothing. I just looked at him, really looked, and saw greed where love used to live. Then I turned and walked away. The next few days were eerily quiet. Imran stopped visiting, and Nadia's phone calls ceased. The house felt empty, hollow like a body without a soul. Hina visited often, bringing groceries and comfort. "Abu, please don't be sad," she said softly. "You still have us, me, Asen and Adil." She meant her two younger brothers, my twin sons who lived abroad. They'd always respected me, never asked for anything. I nodded. "You're right, Beta. I still have those who care." Inside, though, I was a storm waiting to break. One evening, I met Mr. Rashid at his office. He was an old friend, one of the few people I could still trust. "I've seen this before," he said gravely. "Greed makes good children forget their parents, but you can't fight fire with fire. You have to outthink them." He leaned forward. "Let's make a new will, one they'll never expect." We spent hours drafting it. I told him exactly what I wanted, that the inheritance would go only to those who had treated me with love and respect. The ones who never asked for anything only gave. Mr. Rashid smiled as he sealed the documents. "You've made the right choice. Let them keep thinking you're weak. When the time comes, this will speak louder than any word you could say." That night, I felt a strange calm wash over me. For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. But peace never lasts long in a house filled with betrayal. When I heard what Imran was telling the town, that I'd gone senile, and he was taking care of things, something inside me hardened forever. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was humiliation. He'd turned me into a laughingstock in my own neighborhood, the same community that once respected me for my honesty and work ethic. For 2 days, I stayed silent. Sarah wanted to confront him, but I stopped her. "No," I said. "He wants a reaction. We'll give him silence instead." I began pretending to grow weaker. I let them think they were winning. When Imran or Nadia called, I spoke slowly, as though tired and confused. It was all part of the plan. Hina played along too, though it pained her. "Are you sure this is right, Abu?" she asked. "What if they take advantage again?" "They will." I said, "That's the point. I want them to show the world who they really are." Mr. Rashid, my lawyer, met me every few days at his office. We changed the will again, this time ensuring every loophole was sealed. We added conditions, witnesses, and legal safeguards. One afternoon, as I left the lawyer's office, I saw Imran waiting near the gate. His face twisted in a smirk. "Still trying to manage things, old man." He mocked. I didn't respond. I just smiled faintly and said, "You'll get everything you deserve, son." He laughed, I better. He didn't realize how right I was. Over the next few weeks, I began shifting small things quietly, the company shares, the house deeds, and bank accounts. Everything went under legal trusteeship until the new will would activate. At home, Sarah grew nervous. "What if something happens to us before the truth comes out?" she asked. I took her hands in mine. "Then the truth will speak for itself. I've written it into every line. I'd lost a son to greed, but I was about to teach him and the world that a father's silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. The next morning, I booked a flight, not to run away, but to visit the children who still called me Abu with love. My twin sons, Asen and Adil, lived abroad, both successful in their own right, both humble despite their success. When I arrived, they hugged me like they hadn't seen me in years. "Abu, you should have told us you were coming," Asen exclaimed. I smiled. Sometimes surprises are good for the heart. We sat together that evening, sipping tea, talking about everything life, family, old memories. I told them what had happened with Imran. Their faces darkened with disbelief. He said, "What about you?" Adil asked. "That I'm seen, I said, trying to sound calm. "He's trying to take over everything." Adil clenched his fists. "He's forgotten who raised him." I shook my head, no anger. "He's already destroyed himself. I just came to make sure you both stay who you are, honest, respectful, grateful." Then I told them about my plan, the new will. Their eyes widened when I explained how I decided to divide things. "Abu, we don't want money." Asen said immediately, "You've already given us more than enough. That's exactly why you deserve it." I replied softly, "Because you never asked." We finalized a few details with a lawyer abroad, witnesses, digital backups, and security measures. Everything was arranged carefully so that even if Imran tried to interfere, he couldn't touch a single thing. Before leaving, I hugged them both tightly. "Promise me one thing," I said. "When the truth comes out, don't mock your brother. Let karma do its job." As I boarded my flight home, I looked out the window and whispered to myself, "This time, my blessing will mean something." The next day felt like the final act of a long play, and I was ready for it. I called Mr. Rashid early in the morning. "Everything's ready?" I asked. He replied, "Yes, sir. The new will is signed, sealed, and legally protected. If anything happens to you, it will be read exactly as you wrote it." That gave me peace. I spent the day quietly, sipping tea with Sarah, walking in the garden, and replaying memories of my children's laughter echoing in these walls years ago. At exactly 4 p.m., the gate bell rang. Imran and Nadia entered, dressed formally again, this time with their lawyer in tow. Nadia put on her practiced smile. "Abu, we just need a few signatures. Then you can rest easy knowing everything's in order." Imran added smugly, "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at them both and said calmly, "If you think my blessing doesn't matter, why do you still need my signature?" That silenced them for a moment. Then Imran snapped, "Because the blessing won't hold up in court." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "You've already broken our hearts, Imran. What more do you want?" He turned away, ignoring her pain. I stood up, steady and composed. "You'll get what you deserve soon enough, but I'll sign nothing today." Imran's lawyer tried to speak, but I raised a hand. "This conversation is over." They stormed out, slamming the door behind them. For a long time, Sarah and I just stood there silent, but strangely relieved. The storm had passed, or so I thought. That night, Mr. Rashid called once again. "Sir," he said, "the documents are secured. I've also arranged something else when the time comes. I'll call a family meeting to reveal the will myself." "Good," I replied. "Let them all hear the truth together." Before hanging up, he added, "When that day comes, you'll finally have peace." I didn't know then how soon that day would arrive. When I opened my eyes, I saw the hospital ceiling above me and the worried face of my daughter, Hina. Her eyes were swollen from crying. "Abu, you scared us." She whispered, "What happened?" "You collapsed in the garden. The doctor says it was exhaustion, maybe stress." Sarah sat beside me, holding my hand tightly. I could feel her trembling. "You'll be fine," she said softly, forcing a smile. "You just need rest." I spent 3 days in that hospital bed, half conscious, half listening to the whispers around me. But some whispers cut deeper than pain itself. One afternoon, as the nurse changed my Roman 4, I heard voices outside the curtain. Imran's voice. If he doesn't recover, we'll need to act fast. I've already spoken to our lawyer. The will must be read immediately. My heart went cold. He was waiting for me to die. When he entered the room later, his fake concern was almost insulting. "Dad, how are you feeling?" he asked, patting my hand like a stranger. I looked at him quietly. "I'm still alive," Imran, surprised. He flinched, then forced a smile. "Don't say that, Dad. We're just worried." Hina's jaw tightened. "Don't pretend, Bai. We know you've been spreading lies about Abu's health." Nadia glared at her. "Watch your tone." Before an argument could erupt, I raised my hand weakly. "Enough, this is not the place." That night, when the others had gone, I told Hina to call Mr. Rashid. "Tell him to gather everyone at the house next Sunday." I said, "But Abu," she whispered, "will you be strong enough?" I smiled faintly. "I'll be strong enough to speak the truth." By the time I was discharged, word had already spread that the final will reading was coming. Friends, relatives, everyone was whispering, speculating, waiting. The day arrived. I sat in the living room, the same one where months ago my son had demanded my signature. Now it was packed: my wife, my children, their spouses, even a few extended relatives. Everyone waiting for the lawyer's arrival. Imran looked confident, almost smug, wearing an expensive suit and that self-satisfied smirk I'd come to despise. Nadia sat beside him, her chin high, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Hina sat quietly near Sarah, holding her mother's hand. Across the room, Asen and Adil had flown in calm, respectful, but firm in their silence. When Mr. Rashid entered, the entire room went still. He greeted everyone politely, then placed a thick envelope on the table. "This," he said, "is Mr. Karim's final and legally binding will." It was signed, sealed, and witnessed under my supervision. Imran leaned back confidently. "Let's get on with it." Mr. Rashid opened the file and began to read. His voice was steady, clear, and every word carried weight. "I, Karim Ahmed, being of sound mind and memory, hereby declare this to be my final will and testament. My estate, including the family home, the business, and all financial assets, shall be distributed as follows." The room leaned forward. "To my son Imran and his wife Nadia I leave nothing." Gasps filled the room. Nadia's hand froze midair. Imran's smirk disappeared instantly. "What did he just say?" Nadia hissed. Mr. Rashid continued reading, unbothered by their shock. "They have made it clear that my blessing no longer matters to them. So I shall bless them with absence, the absence of wealth they never respected." Silence. A painful, heavy silence. Imran stood up abruptly. "This is a joke. He's not in his right mind. I demand to see the papers." Mr. Rashid adjusted his glasses calmly. "You can, after I finish reading." He went on, "To my daughter Hina, and to my younger sons Asen and Adil, I leave equal portions of my estate, valued at approximately $5 million each. This is not a reward, but a recognition of love, respect, and loyalty that cannot be bought." Tears welled in Hina's eyes. Sarah began to sob quietly. Mr. Rashid concluded, "Let it be known that I leave behind not just money, but a lesson that wealth without respect is poverty of the soul." The room was frozen. Chaos erupted the moment the reading ended. Nadia stormed out of her chair, shouting, "This is fraud. You manipulated him." Mr. Rashid stood his ground. "All documents were witnessed and verified. There's nothing fraudulent here, only justice." Imran paced back and forth, his hands shaking with fury. "You'll regret this, old man," he snarled at me. I met his gaze calmly. "No, Imran, I already regretted raising a son who valued money more than respect. Now I'm at peace." He glared at his siblings. "You think you deserve this. You didn't build anything. I did all the work." Adil spoke for the first time, his voice cold but steady. "No, Bai, you tried to take everything. That's not work, that's theft." Imran's anger exploded. He threw a glass against the wall, shouting, "You've turned them against me, father. You've humiliated me." I stood slowly, my cane in hand, my voice firm. "No, Imran, you humiliated yourself. I only gave you what you asked for nothing." He froze. For a second I saw something flicker in his eyes, shame, perhaps, but pride killed it quickly. He turned to Nadia. We're leaving. They can keep their dirty money. They stormed out, slamming the door so hard that the chandelier rattled. The rest of us sat there in silence, exhausted, heartbroken, but relieved. Mr. Rashid packed his files and turned to me. You did the right thing, sir. This will not only protect your ass, it will restore your dignity. I nodded slowly. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about teaching him that blessings aren't worthless. That evening, as the sun set behind our garden, I sat quietly with Sarah and our 3 children. For the first time in years, the house felt peaceful. Hina rested her head on my shoulder. Abu, you finally have your peace. I smiled. Yes, Beta, and soon he'll have his lesson. Because word travels fast, and by the next week, everyone in town knew that the son who mocked his father's blessing had lost everything because of it. Days turned into weeks after the will reading. The house, once filled with tension and unspoken resentment, now felt peaceful, but also empty in a strange way. Every time I sat at the dining table, I could still picture Imran sitting across from me, arguing about business, money, or expansion plans. Now that chair was always empty. Sarah noticed it too. She often walked into his old room, rearranging things that hadn't been touched in years. Sometimes I'd find her sitting on his bed, tears in her eyes, no matter what he did. She whispered one evening, he's still our son. I sighed, placing a hand on her shoulder. I know, but some lessons only life can teach. I didn't reply to his letter immediately. Maybe part of me wanted him to feel what I had felt: betrayal, disappointment, and loneliness. But I also knew that revenge wasn't my nature. I wasn't trying to destroy him, I was trying to wake him up. One night, as I was reading in my study, I heard a soft knock. It was Hina. Abu Imran Bai called me. She said quietly. I put down my glasses. What did he say? He wants to meet you. Privately, he's in town. I closed my eyes. For a moment, the father in me fought the hurt in me. Then I said, tell him to come tomorrow morning. When she left, I sat there in silence. I looked around the study, the old photos, the shelves, the papers, the family pictures on the wall. There was one photo of Imran as a child, sitting on my shoulders, laughing with his small arms stretched out like wings. Tears welled in my eyes. Where did we go wrong? I whispered to the empty room. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I waited for morning like a man waiting for a storm that might either destroy him or finally wash him clean. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Imran stood there with his head bowed, holding his cap in his hands like a guilty child. His expensive clothes were gone, replaced by something plain and worn. Can I come in? He asked softly. I nodded. You always could. He stepped into the house, looking around quietly. It feels different, he murmured. It's the same house, I said. Maybe you're the one who changed. We sat in the living room, the same place where he had once shouted, demanded, and insulted me. But this time there was no anger in his eyes, only shame. I lost everything, Abu. He began, his voice trembling. After the will reading, my business partners pulled out. They said they couldn't trust me. The bank accounts were frozen, the loans fell apart, and Nadia. He paused, swallowing hard. She left, took whatever little was left, and moved abroad. I stayed quiet. He continued, tears spilling down his cheeks. I kept blaming you for everything. But when I sat alone one night, I realized you were right. I wanted to replace your blessing with money, and I ended up losing both. He covered his face with his hands. I'm sorry, Abu. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it. For a long while, I just looked at him. The proud, stubborn son I once knew was gone. In his place stood a broken man, finally ready to listen. I reached out and placed my hand on his. Imran, I said quietly, you didn't just lose money, you lost yourself. And now, you've found the one thing money can't buy: humility. He looked up, eyes red. Can you ever forgive me? I smiled sadly. A father doesn't stop loving his son. He just waits for him to come home. For the first time in years, Imran leaned forward and hugged me tight, desperate, and full of the pain of years wasted. I held him close, my own tears falling freely. In that moment, I didn't see the man who betrayed me. I saw the boy who used to wait for me to come home from work, the boy who'd run into my arms shouting, Abu. Life slowly returned to a gentle rhythm after that day. Imran didn't move back into the house, not immediately. He said he wanted to start over on his own, to rebuild something honest this time. I respected that. Weeks later, he began visiting every few days, helping around the house, taking me to the doctor, sitting with his mother for tea. It wasn't about money anymore, it was about time, something he'd never given before. One evening, as we sat in the garden watching the sunset, he said, "Abu, I don't deserve anything from you, but if I can earn back your blessing, that will be enough." I smiled. "Then take it, Beta, it was always yours. You just had to come back for it." He lowered his head and kissed my hand. "Thank you, Abu." That moment, that simple act healed something deep inside me. All the anger, all the resentment, it melted away. Because in the end, wealth fades, houses crumble, businesses fail, but love, once broken and mended, becomes unbreakable. Now, when I sit alone at night, I often look at the photo of my family not with regret, but with gratitude. We went through hell, yes, but we came out knowing the true meaning of inheritance. Inheritance isn't about money or land. It's about values, about love, about respect. When I finally put down my pen to finish this story, I whispered a prayer for every parent and every child who might be listening. May you never learn the value of love only after losing it. They tried to take my wealth, but God gave me something far greater, a son who found his way back home.